Welcome to the Uzalendo podcasts. My name is Mwalimu Mutemu Wakema, the founder of Uzalendo Halisi Foundation. In the Uzalendo podcasts, we amplify ordinary Kenyans doing extraordinary things, and especially because the leadership that our society is seeking or has been coming from these unusual individuals who do what they do, not because they're being paid to do it, but because they are passionate about our community and making society better. Today, we are privileged to have the hoof eater himself, Jerome Ogola. He's come all the way from Soy to speak to us. So tune in and listen to his story. Asante. So thank you for coming all the way from Soy during msimu wa kulima. Umepanda mahindi?
Yes, in msimu wa mahindi. My plantation is presently 65 days old. It is almost tussling.
How many acres?
I'm a peasant farmer. Shamba ndogo tu. Some 4.5 acres.
4.5 acres of maize is not kidogo.
Yes.
People are doing AIDS huko kwetu Mount Kenya.
Mount Kenya labda ni kidogo sana manake kule kwetu. People are doing hundreds of acres. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for making time for this conversation. It's an easy conversation. We want to know who Jerome Ogola is. So we're going to ask you to introduce yourself. Who are you? Where do you come from? Alafu tutaendelea na conversation from there.
Jerome Ogola comes from Soy. He was born in a place called, the exact village is called Kamuret, but the place is called Kamagut, which is actually the president's home or where he was born. And Jerome is a writer. To be specific, he's a political satirist. And this one, I do it so because just like West African musician Franklin Bukaka did, he was a musician, but he only used his music to spread the gospel of good governance, of Pan-Africanism, and the ideals that he stood for. So mine, I'm a writer, but there is a special message that I'm passing through my writing.
What is the message?
The message is simply justice, good governance, and everything that is right in the society. Yes.
So you were born in the same village as the current president?
Yes. And also educated in the same place. I also attended Kamagut Primary School. From Kamagut Primary School, I went to a school called Seyot. Remember, Kamagut Primary School is the president's primary school. Then I went to a school called Seyot, which also happened to have been June Chepchirchir's school. June Chepchirchir is presently known as June Ruto. And then I transferred to Likuyani Primary School, which coincidentally was also the primary school of Madam Rachel Ruto. But June went to or attended Seyot after me. But the president was there more than around 15 years before me. And Rachel as well.
But you have, with a name like Ogola, and are you Ogola keep somebody?
Not really. Although my father was called Arap Chelule, but that one was just an AKA, a moniker he was given by his friends. He actually came from a place called Ramba in Siaya, but he relocated to Wasingishu in 1951 and settled there. So we were born there and we were educated there. And it is there that we call home.
And you speak Kikale?
I speak several African languages,
How many?
Being one of them. In fact, I learned how to speak Kalenjin before I could utter a word in Bulu. Yes.
So you speak several, which languages do you speak?
Kalenjin, Luya, Lingala, and the other languages like English, Swahili.
You speak Kalenjin, Luo, and Lingala?
And Luya as well.
And Luya?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Why did you learn to speak Lingala?
I learned to speak Lingala because, number one, I believe this is a language for Pan-Africanism. English is a language for imperialism. And our local languages are good languages, but they are oftentimes misused by people to advance their ethnic agenda. Or when somebody wants to say something that he intends to reach specific ears, he reverts to this language. This leaves Lingala in a very unique position, just like Swahili. Yes.
So have you lived in the Congo?
No. I've never set foot in Congo.
Why?
But I'm a fan of music.
Is there a school called where you can go to Lingala and do Lingala in Kenya?
I doubt there is any. There isn't any.
So
but
it's
there are
self-taught.
several avenues that you can learn the language. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And how did you learn?
My brother happened to have been a musician. He's called Ochieng Kabasele. He was fluent in the language.
Ochieng Kabasele?
Yes.
The one and only?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And so when I developed interest in music, I had to also learn and try to interpret what they're saying, which meant that I also had to learn the language. Yes, and since there were very many people speaking the language around, that's how I knew Lingala.
Oh, you had some people from the DRC, or then Zaire, as it was known then, in part of his band.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, almost the entire span of his band, he had Congolese musicians within. And also, when you're a fan of music, you'll at least know musicians from DRC. And they're very poor in English and Swahili. So it's you to learn their language. Yes.
So we'll come back to Lingala and Benga and your passion for it.
Yes.
So you've grown up in that, you've gone to school in those in that area in Kamagut.
Yes, I started school in Kamagut, then I transferred to Sayot. Then the ethnic clashes of 1992 came and it displaced us. And we cruised the boundaries to a place called Likiani, where I proceeded to Likiani Primary School.
Yes. That is in which county?
Actually, the initial place, which is Kamagut, is in Uasin Gishu County. But Likiani is in Western, that is Kakamega County. They are bordering each other. They're actually separated by a river. Yes.
So you just crossed over to...
Yes.
How was that experience? How old were you then?
I was still a young man. I was in class 5 or 6. Yes, I was in class 5. I've remembered. The experience, of course, our friends turned against us, but they are not bad people. Just like every other community, they are good people until when somebody stirs the ethnic passion, until somebody poisons their minds. Otherwise, those who turn against you are those who have previously been your friend, but even after the skirmishes were gone down, then you resume your friendship. Until when somebody will come up to stir the ethnic embers again. Yes.
So right now you're in Soy, which is still...
Soy is in the boundary. Actually, Soy market is in the boundary. The tarmac that you see when you're going to Kitale, one side is Western Province or Kakamega County, and the other side is Uasin Gishu. But the community which dominates the place is actually Kikuyu. Yes. I can say 2/3 of Kikuyu. The market or even the buildings or business premises in Soy are owned by Kikuyus.
What?
Yes.
Wow. Oh.
And not just in Soy, Matunda, Bridge, and every other serious trading center within the corridor. Yes.
As traders?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Not just traders, they also do business. They also do farming. They also have farms. Yes. Some were born there. Yes.
They don't know any other...
That is the ancestral home. Yes. And even when they speak Swahili, they do not speak with that accent that denotes that they were born elsewhere, maybe in Central or so. They're just comfortable there.
And so you after primary school, you went to high school?
After primary school, I did well. In fact, I was the best. We topped with a lady called Deborah Duogo in class 8. But then I could not proceed because we did not have, I did not, my father had died. My father died many years ago. My father actually died in 1981. And my mother was not well off enough to take me to secondary school. And so I just stayed at home when others were going to school. Then I went to some school in Western, sketchily, but then returned back home. Stayed at home. I became a hawker. And so one time I crossed the river to a school called Sabut, entered the classroom without even seeking, admission. Yeah.
A secondary school?
Yes, in Form 3.
In Form 3?
Yes. Form 1, nimesoma sketchily, like I've told you. Yeah. Then from there, he used to send me home. So in fact, I'm the first student to have gone through secondary school without ever wearing the school's uniform or even paying 1 cent. I never paid even 1 cent. I just went and entered the class.
Did you do the Form 4 exam?
Yes, I did. And I also did well, although those days there was something called direct entry to university, which means singeenda university. But then, at least I did well. And recently, I pick up from where they left, nikaendelea nayo.
Ulirudi shule?
Not, of course, not high school, but seeking professional qualifications. Yes.
It's very interesting that you know, when I look at your writing, one cannot imagine that you had to push yourself through school because of the lack of school fees. Tell us about that.
Writing, I'd say I developed this one early in life. When I transferred from Sayot Primary School to Likuyani, my English teacher was called Kademukani. And she gave us an assignment to write a composition. And all this composition came with marks. I think they were marking out of 40 or something like that one. But mine, she only marked, but she never awarded any marks. But then she told me to go and see her. When I went there, she asked me to write the same composition in the staff room. And I sat there and I did it again. And I did it even better. Then she marked it again. Nakaniambia iko sawa sawa kabisa. And she told me that she did not award any marks because she feared that if she was to follow the guidelines that they use in marking, I was to score something like 38 out of 40. Nakaona hiyo ni mingi sana, hajawahi kupea mtu wote.
Allah.
I used to write letters for my friends. Those days, love letters to their girlfriends. Yes, but I think it is only in this era of social media that I started large-scale writing. Yes.
And how did you end up in journalism?
Journalism, I'd say, in fact, when maybe I write, people think or they say that I'm good in writing. But even if we are to look at my results, I think I was even better in some other things. But social media only gives a platform for this writing to be known. For example, if I was good in mathematics, you didn't know that on through the social media because you're not doing calculations in social media. But I'd say that is where I got the platform that has also seen me be given some contracts here and there with the daily papers like Monitor of Uganda, Nation, Standard. I've never been their employee, but I've written for them on contract. Yes.
So from anyone who has passion in and maybe might not have school fees, that it's possible to achieve one's passion.
Yes, that is it. But it also depends because I'd say even writing itself, many people hata wakitaka kuandika labda mtu ataandika, it also requires some kind of dedication, and it's also time consuming, etc. So it's not an easy thing.
So have you done any professional training in journalism?
Yes, I'm a trained journalist as we speak. Yes, and even if our cameraman is to go out, I can assist him do this work. Yes.
So multimedia.
Yes.
Because I've seen you do a live show on Facebook.
That one is some kind of a makeshift studio or a home studio, which I used to broadcast online. It's called Hoof FM. And in it, we do music, strictly Rumba music or Congolese music. But in between, of course, we can talk 1, 2, 3 politics, but mostly we do music. But now on that one, I think I rely mostly on my expertise on matters Congolese music than my expertise in broadcast journalism, because I'm actually a print media person and not a broadcast journalist. Yes.
So you said there are many other things you could have been good at or you're good at apart from writing. What are these things?
Yes. In the days that I was in school, I had wished to pursue law because I believe this one gives me a better platform to advocate for the rights of the downtrodden. The same which I'm trying to do right now with the platform of writing. But I feel that through writing, my choices or my hands are somewhat tied as opposed to law, where maybe I would be doing it in a scale that is different. Like recently, there was somebody who had an altercation and then they fought with the cops, but nobody wants to hear the story behind the fight. Everybody knows that this guy actually assaulted the cops. Nobody wants to know that cops have, on very many occasions, also beaten some other people, only that the events were never captured on social media or some other avenues. So it would have been different if I was a lawyer than a journalist, but nonetheless, you're still advancing the same cause.
You're talking about this young man who assaulted a cop the other day.
Yes.
Or rather, who beat up a cop.
Yes.
Let me not use the word assault, because assault comes after conviction.
Yes.
It's a charge. So, have you thought of pursuing law now?
No, I have not. I think I'm just happy making noise through using words to expose it, and then somebody else with an expertise in the field will take it from there and advance it. Yes.
So that's law. What else? What else could you have done?
The law, actually, that is what that was my childhood dream. But again, right now, as much as I write, what I do most is actually farming. Yes. And that is where my heart is as well. And I also believe that if we also discard that white collar mentality and revert to farming, the fortunes of this society will change. I do not see why somebody would leave 20 acres of arable land at home to come and tarmac in the city analala kwa kichwa meka kwa reli Kibera tapito na gari ya moshi. Yes, there is potential in farming, especially if harnessed. Yes.
Are you farming anything else apart from maize?
Mostly we do maize, but given capacity, I will definitely diversify it to some other things. Yes, because if you go to the market to buy onions, you realize that they're very costly, and our soils can produce onions. Why aren't we doing onions? This over-reliance on maize is almost becoming cultish. We are supposed to fight it with the same vigor that we're also fighting the other ills in the society, like bad governance. Yes.
And I remember reading somewhere that maize and maize flour were introduced as the cheapest food just to provide energy to farm workers working for Mzungus.
Possibly. What I'd say, maize meal, not maize meal. Ugali previously existed, but it was made from either cassava, millet, or some other stuff. But maize was brought by Mzungu. It is not indigenous. But we also have the options of these other crops zenye zililetwa. When we are looking at maize cultivation, we are looking at it from a subsistence angle and also from an angle of commercializing it. When it comes to commercializing it, I think maize doesn't have the best returns as we speak, despite the government efforts in subsidizing inputs like fertilizer. Yes.
And in soy, were you guys victims of the fake fertilizers?
I think we can look at it from two angles. There were fertilizer which was procured or which was sourced from the county government of Kakamega, which was largely speculated to be substandard, but it turned out to be misleading. Actually, I think the county itself did not do enough work in sensitizing the farmers because the things that they were calling stones were not actually stones. And this one is very evident from the color of plantations. You see in maize, the color of the leaves will tell you how healthy the plant is or the crop is. But then some of us procured ours from NCPB. They were mostly okay. But the problem or the challenges that we saw or we encountered is accessing it. Because you can queue for several days before getting those few bags. But I doubt if anybody from where I come from bought that fake or substandard fertilizer. Yes.
So are you thinking of delving into other food crops?
Yes, but they also have their own challenges. But again, even with these challenges, the government can do some interventions to make sure that we surmount them like they're doing with the maize. For example, if you want to cultivate a vegetable right now, you will have to rely on market, even local. And those people who buy it from the farm, they buy it so cheaply and they end up making a kill after transporting it to town. So if there was a way of getting rid of this middleman here, then farming would be very, very profitable. Yes.
And can the farmers organize themselves?
Farmers cannot organize.
To bypass the
it depends with the capacity. You cannot bring your cabbages to sell in Nairobi if you don't have a canter. And it has to be yes, because if you lease one, you'll pay a fortune to take somebody's canter for 1 week. I believe there is a lot that the government can do. For example, when I was young, these NCPB depots were everywhere, in every market. They used to buy maize, even 5 bags. But right now, even if when the government is buying maize, an ordinary farmer can still not sell his maize to NCPB because he does not have the logistics of transporting this maize from his farm to the depots. Like the nearest, so is Tarbo or Moise Bridge. That is over 15 kilometers away.
But if you come together as farmers, you can maybe hire a truck together or share.
That one, so there could be challenges arising from that one because the quality of our products differs. At least also everybody anakuanga na priorities zake. Somebody wants to sell his immediately, mwingine anaweza subiri kidogo. The issue of pricing as well. I think unless there is a serious framework put in place by the government to help farmers market their produce and to help them procure inputs, it will be an exercise in futility. Yes. Even with maize right now, if the government can make sure that voting material reach a regular primary school, which is my voting station, and if I enter that polling station, you will realize that there are legislations or other statutes which ensure that per polling station, they cannot exceed 700 voters. And there are several clerks, presiding officers to ensure that the process is smooth. But when I go to collect my fertilizer, there is only one paying point to serving 5,000 farmers in a day. You see, there is a very big challenge. And again, outside that depot, the same products is being sold by some other people. And it is said that when your mbuzi gets lost, and that evening, unasikia harufu ya mbuzi inatoka kwa jirani, unakuwa na wasiwasi, mbuzi inaweza kuwa ni ile yako.
Ameshika amechinja.
So, somebody may think that this confusion in the NCPB depot is created by design, by the owners or larger the managers of this depot, so that they can sneak some fertilizer and sell them out at 1,000 shillings on top of would have been the ordinary price. Getting rid of these small malpractices is what will change the fortune of this country. Yes.
And now, have you ever been a teacher?
Yes, I've taught.
I think I read somewhere that you've taught school.
I've taught. When I went to collect my KCSE results, they realized that I was good, and they also gave me an opportunity to teach. In fact, they gave me an opportunity to teach English, and I remember my salary was 3,000 shillings. That's what they
3,000.
And they did not give me that first month's salary. Then I quit. I went to some other school to teach. Now a primary school. I've taught secondary school. I've taught primary school. I've been teaching tuition. Then nikachoka na kufundisha ni ukulima tu sasa. No uandishi.
I'm asking that because I want to trace your passion for educating the masses as you do on your Facebook and Twitter platforms.
Yes.
Where does that passion for social justice and then the desire to not just have the knowledge, but to actually engage Kenyans and try and advance these conversations? Where does that come from?
I think that there are very many injustices happening around. And they're happening in a manner that not everybody notices. Or if everybody is noticing, nobody is talking about them. And even if somebody chooses to talk about them, then he is almost ignored because of the manner in which he is packaging his cries. That's why I was saying, just like Franklin Bukaka was using his music, that now I'm using mine. I'm writing. And within this writing, I'm actually concealing the bitter truth that is in. Some of the injustices, like for example, when I finished class 8, I used to live with a relative those days when I did class 8. And as I told you, we were 2 top students from the same school. And when I finished school, when we did the exam, results hata mjini, mtaani, unajua kila mtu amepata, ilikuwa nasikia points, ngapi. But then everybody went to school and I just stayed at home. And nobody bothered. It was just okay those days. But right now, it may not happen because there is some kind of activist that is being amplified by the social media, and it is that one which requires people like me to just notice it because I already have an avenue. But there are very many wrong things happening in the society. There are very many from the level of the government, even right now in the government, there are very many things. But if you keep quiet about it, the government, they will know that it is right. Yeah. And we also have house Negroes, those who are just celebrating because they believe that the government is on their side. And so they should not talk about anything, no matter if this ill is disenfranchising them as individuals. Yes.
Explain a bit about what is a house Negro.
as of now, there is somebody who believes that anything that comes from the government is right because he is of the president's community. And that is what should change. When the government does any wrong, when when corruption escalates, when there is misgovernance, we all suffer the consequences of this poor governance. But when the government does the right thing, regardless of your ethnic community or affiliation, the things that we all benefit. Tuko kwa meli moja, bahari pia ni moja. Meli ikizama, sote tunazama. But the ethnic Negro thinks that he is immunized from these ills because of his ethnic affiliation, and that is not the case. Huyo sasa ni ule mtumwa or the slave mwenye alikuwa anakaa ndani ya nyumba. The slave thought because he is close to the king ako na advantages mingi sana, but in reality he is also a slave. Na wale wakipiga kelele kutoka nje wanapiga kelele ya freedom mpaka yake mwenyewe.
I'm a community organizer. I know. I think better than most that people don't just get up and you can do a protest over an issue, an emerging issue, a spontaneous protest, but that doesn't go far because if there's no organization, you just go jump up, then go back home, and then nothing changes. How do we organize people progressively and and ideologically so that they can actually build something different from what we're having?
Possibly you've not gotten it right because these protests have yielded tangible results. For example, the freedom that we have in this country is a product of protest. The Mau Maus found it fit to leave their women at home and go and hide in the bushes to mount an insurgency against the colonial government. That is some kind of protest, and that is how we got this independence. Even as we speak, the new constitution is a product of protest. And even the protests that you deem not to have given birth to something tangible are actually in the right track because at some point people will get tired and they will wake up. And there will be a very serious revolution in the country. You know, hardship and poverty hardens people. Like Che Guevara was hardened was radicalized by hardships. So when people are pushed to the wall, they will have a reason to. And so anybody who organizes even a protest of two people is doing something important because many other people are being pressed by the same challenges. Like the one that was happened yesterday, but one. People are going hungry in this country, but nobody's talking about it. If you look at TV, you think everybody's comfortable. But the reality is that households cannot afford basics as a matter of fact. And we have a government in place, and the government is not doing much. It is doing something, but it's not doing much. Yes.
Do you see that happening in our lifetime?
It will definitely, because if you critically examine the voting pattern in the last election, you will realize that there is something which was almost taking the shape of the elections that we had with Kibaki when Kibaki won. Previously, it was thought that the ethnic or Kikuyu ethnic community will never vote for some other community. But they did. They voted for Akalenjin. It was also not thought that a Kikuyu can not vote for a Luo because from the days of Kenyatta, it was thought that Luos and Kikuyus cannot go along politically unless a Kikuyu is at the top. But this time it was Raila, and he still managed some votes from Nyanza. This means
from
that...
Mount Kenya?
From Mount Kenya. It means that people are looking at things from a different angle. And on top of that, we may also have had some other candidates who are described as fringe, but they also had substantial support that was not based on ethnicity. This is one of the reasons why I also threw myself in the ring and contested a parliamentary seat despite knowing too well that even if every Luo was to vote me from Likuyani constituency, I would still lose.
Which constituency did you contest?
I've contested twice to be MP for Likuyani.
Likuyani,
yes.
Likuyani is in Kakamega County.
Yes, it is in the appendix of Kakamega County in the northern side.
How did you perform?
I'd say dismally, but this dismally happened because of a cocktail of factors. The first one being I was disadvantaged ethnically. The second one being that I was incapacitated financially. And the third one is that when it comes to political alignments, those who get party tickets tend to have an advantage over those who vie as independents. And I also ran as an independent candidate.
What is the main ethnicity in Likuyani?
Likuyani is in Western Province, and I'd say up to 90% are Luyas, spread among different sub-tribes. And all the MPs who have been there since 1963, kuanzia kwa Weranga mpaka wasaizi, they are all Luyas. But then I was also determined to rewrite the narrative. Yes. And even if I did not manage it, somebody else will manage it at some one point. But toppling a Luya is not the main agenda. The main agenda is to bring the idea of something tangible at the table, devoid of ethnic mobilization. We are not voting somebody because he's of our tribe, etc., etc. We are voting for somebody because he stands for this and that. Yes.
And I guess that's part of the objective of this podcast, because it's to amplify where alternative leadership can come from. Kenyans keep complaining. If you tell them don't elect these kind of leaders, they're like, unataka tutoe viongozi wapi? But the idea is that the leaders are among you. It's just that you're choosing to go ethnically rather than,
I also noticed that when elections come, like in Nairobi, in the last elections, it was won by Sonko. Sonko is a great man, is a philanthropist. But if we are serious about the leadership of a country, then he is supposed to be as far away from leadership as possible. But where are the good men of Nairobi? Did they contest? No. Nairobi has had a litany of hooligans contesting leadership positions. And strange enough, when they come to the ballot, they win elections. So in this problem of poor governance, Kenyans are not just victims. They're actually participants to some level. Yes.
Let's go back to your moniker, Hoof Eater. And there's another one. Remind me, there's a Patriarch, and then there's a third one.
Which one? Monk.
Monk.
Yes.
Monk. Let's unpack each of those. Which one do we start with?
Hoof Eater is simply a figurative representation of the downtrodden. If you've ever visited a butcher's place and then you found at least some 3-4 guys queuing to buy beef. The first one says nikatie kilo moja, the second one kilo mbili. And then there is this person anatoka kwa foleni, wengine wanunue nyama wasonge mbele. Wakishaenda anauliza, uko na miguu ya ng'ombe, nataka nipelekee mbwa nyumbani. Actually, apelekee mbwa. He's taking them to his children. He's calling his children mbwa because just to make things look normal. But in real sense, he is also a human being and he has thirst for beef, but he cannot afford the 600 shillings to buy that beef. So anauliza kwato. So these are people who are disadvantaged in very many ways. These are the people that I speak to. Yes, ama unauliza uko na kichwa mzuri, yani meaning the head. Now, because you cannot buy liver or some other softer parts. That's why I also use the term southerners, because the hoof is south of the knee. We only deal with things that are south of the knee. So Hoof Eaters is a movement actually, and I think sometime we may think of making it becoming something bigger, even in the political platform.
I'm looking forward to that. Because I think you have quite a huge following on Facebook, and your daily posts get a lot of engagement, which means your message is resonating. It's actually already a movement. It's just that you've not taken it out of Facebook yet.
Yes, and that is the step that we will be taking at some point, because you may be in the wrong place or doing the wrong thing, but you may not realize until somebody makes you realize that what you're doing is not what is right. I've always given very many illustrations. For example, the current political alignment in the country takes the position of Raila Odinga and William Ruto. But the truth of the matter is that if Raila Odinga is to knock William Ruto's door, itafunguliwa. If Ruto akienda kwa Raila na agonge mlango, atafunguliwa. Lakini mimi kama Mluo nikienda kwa boma ya Raila, haitafunguliwa. Mnandi akienda kwa Ruto agonge mlango, haitafunguliwa. What does this mean? It means wale watu wenye wako chini facing the same challenges are closer together and closer to each other, and they can be of help to each other than them and the leadership that they purport to be theirs. Yes.
So Hoof Eaters should come together
Yes, I've thought there are very many ills which, if we stand together, we can fight them collectively. Like right now, we were being told that there was a presidential jet that at first it was leased, then it was donated, something close to that, at a cost of 200 million shillings. I'm not well versed with the geography of Nairobi, but I am sure if we are to take a walk right now to the nearest health facility, there is no BCG vaccine. There is no BCG vaccine because the country has not paid debts to the suppliers. A country that is not serious about the health of its people cannot have a platform to claim even legitimacy, or even say, or even tell anybody that we are running the country effectively as it ought to be. That means there is something glaring. But this thing which is glaring, which is wrong, will not happen. There is nothing we can do about it until we hold hands as people who are down.
Mm. What would you say are the, we found ourselves in a state called Kenya.
Yes.
Or a country.
In a whole.
And I don't want to call it a nation, because a nation means shared values and customs and all that. And I don't think we have that. What would you say are some of the basic things a country should enshrine, should provide the citizens with?
What I would say is that at least every citizen should be able to afford the basics. If you walk in the villages, especially when schools are opening, you'll think that there is an outbreak. Yani kila mtu amevunjika miguu kwa sababu kila mtu atemea na bahasha kubwa kubwa. This envelope in the CDF, everybody anaomba msaada ya CDF ndio watoto wapate masomo. These are indicators of mass poverty, chronic poverty. Watu ni masikini sana. Kwa nini? When people are poor and they cannot afford food, then there's a very serious problem. Even if we had issues of governance, but at least the masses can afford the basics, it would have been better and it would have been a different story. The government is pretending to be doing something. I'm using the word pretending because subsidized fertilizer looks like a scheme that is made to uplift or to change the story of food shortage. But in real sense, if you look at it, it's not doing enough. There are very many ills that the government are doing which make sure that the cycle of poverty, the status quo remains in the poverty levels in the country.
Yeah, there's a school of thought that, the way capitalism is it needs poverty to thrive. That if everybody's welfare is taken care of, then you cannot, and they are educated, they are healthy.
It is as simple as you cannot manipulate somebody who is well off. You need poverty.
So it's not a conspiracy theory that poverty is actually
that one is just there. When people are rich, they will not. When people are empowered, not necessarily rich, but somebody who has slept hungry can do anything. He can vote in any manner. He can sing praise and worship for you the whole day, even if you're a killer, even if you killed the mother, he will worship you and praise you. And this is where the other moniker that you're asking about, which is monk, comes in, because a religion is also playing a role in the disenfranchisement of the masses. There is a place in Eldoret that was previously called, there was a market there called West. And then there is a long chain of go-downs. These go-downs actually indicated mass production or some very serious manufacturing sector in the town. But right now, they're all converted into churches. These churches, what church, what church, what church. So if we stop manufacturing and start worshiping, we convert the previous manufacturing houses or industries into churches. And then we enter these churches and pray that God gives us jobs. Then there is something seriously wrong with us as a society. Yes, that's why I'm saying that there is also a segment of underdevelopment whose major ingredient is religion. Yes.
The opium of the masses.
Yes. Religion is playing a role in escalating this situation as it is right now.
Because it pacifies.
That is why I chose to call myself the monk. Because when I say I'm the monk, it is now appearing to people that anybody can make himself anything on matters of religion. For example, somebody can wake up in the morning and declare himself a pastor. Then he goes home, sleeps with his wife, and then the wife also becomes a pastor or something like that one. And when this person will feel like promoting himself to another rank, maybe a reverend, bishop, the same thing will happen. That's why I chose to become a monk, to show these people that all this religious title means nothing, and what they're saying should not even be taken seriously, because religion has a role that it has played in retaining the status quo in matters of poverty in this country. That is why our president, they're telling us that God provides wealth and we must not work hard. But then our president goes to China with a begging bowl. Those guys are pagans, actually. And our president comes from a country that is 99% religious. So how comes the pagans are rich and we are begging from them if God is supposed to be the provider? These are myths that we must debunk if we are supposed to chart our development ahead.
So the monk is almost similar to how I've chosen to refer to myself now as the chief evangelist and high priest of the religion of Utu. Hutu being Ubuntu. I am because we are, and promote that to be the new religion.
But the difference is that what you're doing and what you're saying is something which is practical. Like right now, we are here talking about the ills of the society. But then religion also only tells us that we must not work hard, or rather wealth comes from God. These are things which cannot be proven scientifically, things which cannot be qualified or quantified. That's the difference. But when it comes to choosing a term, at least it resonates because you chose it and you're doing something with it, or something within your powers. But with the religion, you only declare yourself a reverend, and you tell people that if you take this anointing oil and go home with it, you will become rich. But this is another lie.
But what do you say about so you said, it's not just, you can't just blame the leaders, because leadership also is politics, religion, corporate, other spaces, NGO, and that kind of thing. So this religious leader who creates a vial of holy water and sells it for 7,000 shillings, he's just doing what he can to get money. What about the person who buys it? He said...
There is something called indoctrination. When you're born and you're indoctrinated into a certain belief, then you do not have... hauna mipaka. There's nothing that you cannot do. You'll buy TV at $1 million because you're already convinced that this oil is going to change your fortunes. So the problem is with the indoctrination. And even whoever is selling you this oil knows very well that you are easy to manipulate. Yes.
How do you get out of that?
By calling myself monk.
How does a monk get us out of that? Yes.
Now, I'm supposed to be telling you that there's nothing serious about this religion thing. Anybody can declare himself anything. Yes. And it changes nothing, as a matter of fact. Yes. That's why I'm and again, at times I say that I'm also an adherent of Jehovah Wanyonyi. Actually, I don't belong to any religious organization, but I went twice to visit Jehovah Wanyonyi. He comes close to our place. I wanted to authenticate his claims to godship, but then I found him just the same way I've been to several witch doctors' places, just to try and gauge what it's all about. The same thing, Christianity to me appears to be a white man or a Jewish witchcraft. And the Jehovah Wanyonyi na hizi zingine appears to be a black man's witchcraft. I've been to a funeral, I see the priest swinging some item, producing some smoke, sprinkling water. There's no difference from what I saw a Muganga doing in a place called Lugari. It's almost the same thing. It's only that this one is made to look like sophistication, when in real sense it is not. Christians are taking maybe they call a sacrament to symbolize the blood of Jesus. If you, Mutemi, you are to take blood now or anything to symbolize the blood of your ancestor,
I'll be taken to Madhara.
They will declare you a grade 1 madman. Not just a madman, but a very satanic, very evil person.
Yet we saw even when King Charles was being sworn in, he came holding a goat.
Yes. That means if this country is to develop, we must relook our religion as well. It is also a detriment. And I've given a very good example. Kama unaweza kufunga industry na ubadilishe ikuwe kanisa hapo. Hapo kuna matatizo yanaendelea.
And when you talk about religion, most of, for example, if you talk about Judaism or Islam or Hindu, it's not really religion, it's more of culture. How we worship, how we live, how we do things. And if you look at Indians with their Hinduism, or Indian Sikhs with their Sikhism, or Muslim Arabs with their Islam, or Jews with their Judaism, they don't even really evangelize their religions. Christianity evangelizes. What is the African equivalent? Because I've spoken to a few experts on spirituality, and they're like, one of the biggest problems is that an African is very spiritual. So when you remove Christianity and you don't replace it with something else, that's where the problem is. People cannot imagine not being
I don't think so, because I'm an African and I'm not religious in any way. The second part, if an African was as religious as somebody else may think, then he wouldn't have wholeheartedly accepted this white man's religion when it brought and discarded his own. The fact that he accepted an idea which was previously not his means that his mind is open for some other ideas. That's why we are saying that even if you discard this religion, the spirituality of an African will still remain with him, because this religion is foreign. Yes.
This religion, of course, who used enticement, but also coercion. People were beaten to go to church, or people were fed.
It never came in the early days of Christianity. History tells us that it was never. It was some serious coercion. It was forced. It was imposed, actually. Yes, and even right now, it tends to look queer when somebody says that he's not a Christian. Even if you tell somebody that mimi siamini Mungu, wanashangaa sana. They're forgetting that our forefathers never even knew of the existence of that particular God.
That was my first disconnect, actually, when I was in Sunday school. Because when I was told that everybody who's not Christian will not go to heaven, I was like, what about all our forefathers who passed on before the missionaries brought this religion here?
Yes.
And the Sunday school teacher could not answer that question.
He could not answer because even he himself or herself, he has reservations about the religion. But then the doctrines advises you not to raise questions.
Not to questions, to just have faith. Which is very clever.
Yes. Because they knew very well that as it is, the Bible has got very many shortfalls. For example, if you say that Christianity, the Bible or Christianity is supposed to answer the question in the origin of man, and then who created God. We are back to the same place with the question marks.
So that's, we've talked about the hoof eater, talked about the monk. Let's talk about the patriarch.
The patriarch is correlated to the hoof, because when I say I'm the patriarch, I mean I'm the founder of this ideology. Yes.
And you're busy disseminating it.
Yes.
And getting new
And
records.
if I just tell people that I stand for this and that, join me in spreading this gospel, they will not understand. But if I give them a very interesting narrative, and then I sign up by saying, great evening, my fellow hoof-eaters, they'll find themselves thinking that we are on the same place, thinking about the same things, without necessarily knowing that the real thing is that there is general dissatisfaction with the way things are being run in this country and in this society. Yes.
So when do you plan to get people off Facebook into the actions?
My first attempt was by contesting the parliamentary seat, as I told you. But then I found it that it was not possible to do it that way. But then again, as we speak right now, when you're talking on Facebook, this platform keeps on growing and growing and growing. And when it keeps on growing, even in Eldoret today, I met somebody just told me, you're the hoof-eater. When I came to Nairobi the other time, I also met somebody, when Flan. It means that our popularity, not necessarily in terms of people can vote for us, but people knowing that we stand for something, is growing by the day. Then at some point, we'll use this same forum, itakuwa imefikia watu wengi sana. And it will be possible to chart a political destiny from that point. Yes.
Do you find yourself being approached by politicians to use your platform for their own purposes?
Which I always decline.
So they do?
Yes, very many. And I always decline. I tell them that I'm not a broker. Yes.
Because I want to ask you the question that Kenyans always ask as activists, because you are an activist. Nani amekutuma na nani anakulipa?
Yes, that one they always do. Number one, people, there is a belief that if you ask or if you question something, then you've been sent. Then that's not right. When an injustice is happening, if you walk these corridors and you find somebody being battered anapigwa, just to be a human being, unampiga kwa nini? That is already activism. Because you cannot just pass by when somebody is being beaten. Nobody has sent you, but you just realize that there's something wrong which is happening. So, people have always feared asking or questioning because they believe that those in authority can be ruthless. Number two, others also believe that even if you question, nothing will happen. But then, some of us believe that even if that nothing happens, we will keep on questioning because with the government may not change, but it will raise awareness. If everybody chooses to stand up, then definitely the authorities will listen to the people.
So you're saying every Kenyan should question.
Yes. Any injustice that is happening, whether it is happening to you or to somebody else. An injustice is an injustice, whether you are a victim or not. And if the leadership of the country knew that they are presiding over a nation of people who know their rights, then they would act very differently. Right now, they know that the people are deep into ethnicity. They know that people are ignorant, and that is why very many wrong things keep on happening in the country.
Now, we've seen Kenyans looking for messiahs and making the mistakes of electing, for example, the current president or the previous president or whoever, thinking that one person can change. And also in activism, we have an individual pushing a certain narrative and they get people to follow them. But I firmly believe that, for example, if you are to take out the monk, one way or the other, that message gets lost with the monk. How do we ensure that your message, how do you work to get disciples who can spread your message?
I can say activism should not take the form of politics. Politics right now, for example, if right now Raila Odinga defects to Ford Kenya, then possibly the entire community will defect to Ford Kenya, which means ODM is not about an idea, but about an individual. If today Rigathi Gachagua defects from UDA and forms some other fringe party or wherever party is going, then he will also have a mass following to that particular party, which means these personalities are bigger than the ideology of these groupings or other political parties. I don't call them political parties, because they're not political parties per se. These are they're just about these individuals. So activism should not take that shape. If Kenyans feel that they have reservations with the finance bill as it is right now, then they should have, and Okia Omtata chooses to go to court. What is the big issue here? It is not Okia Omtata, his sura, his ethnicity, or anything. It is the ills that we feel will come with the challenges if this bill is enacted. If activism takes that shape, itakuwa sawa sawa. Even Mandela led South Africans to a revolution, eventually independence. But he only became a president for 5 years, then he akatoka kando. Idea ile ya independence yao ikaendelea na wengine. It should not be about an individual. An individual will only be there for purposes of driving that vehicle. But at the end of the day, those who are on board should know that they're driven by purpose, by some other convictions, and not blind following of that particular individual. Because if that's the case, it will now follow like Tom Mboya and the Kenyatta days. As much as independence was the core reason why these people were together and the KANU was created, at the end of the day, it morphed into something different. It became hero worship for Kenyatta, hero worship for Jaramogi, etc., etc., and that is not what is right. We're not supposed to worship individuals. We're supposed to belong to a grouping or a political party because of an ideology. Unfortunately, as we speak, very few of these political parties have any form of ideological conviction. Even if you look at the blueprint of these two big parties, they're almost the same. Unlike in the US, where you'll notice that there is a very big shift between what Democrats believe in and what Republicans believe in. Yes, I was just about individual. Even if somebody says that I've formed a party, even before uttering a word about what the party stands for, he already has a following based on his ethnicity.
Our traditional society had moved away from that monolithic kind of leadership where you have an individual presenting an idea or a grouping or an ethnicity. Kingpin, as we call it. How do we go back to collective leadership? Because most of us had councils, and even when you had kings, the king had a very let's say staffed council, a council of thinkers and doers and that kind of thing. How do we get back there? For example, as you push the agenda of the hoof eaters, do you have people you consult? Are you bringing other people on board?
I think I've always insisted that as much as this democracy thing is foreign to us, just like religion or Christianity is, the ways of our forefathers,
electoral
we as
democracy,
Africans, is also too archaic for this time. As much as we may find that this system of governance is not working perfectly for us, we cannot say, or we cannot choose the old days as a model with which we can run this country, because those days the world was completely different. For example, there are things, when I say that religion has several ills, I cannot advocate for pure Africanism, because there are practices which were associated with our cultures, like cannibalism. It's outdated. Like FGM, it is outdated. If you go to Nyanza, people are still inheriting widows. It is outdated. So the same thing with the governance. There were some practices which came with morals and which are very good for us. And if we adopt them, then people will be responsible. But again, we even had places where kingship was hereditary. We cannot bring that one into board right now. We have to look for a way of getting a system that works perfectly for us. We are a fairly educated lot, and apart from that education, we are also children of an era of advancement in technology. We know most of our challenges and we know how we can tackle them. It's only the path of tackling them, but if we can sit down, we can chart a way that is better when it comes to managing our affairs, other than embracing the old African ways simply because it is African.
Now, because our current leadership, political leadership that is in charge of running this country, has refused. They know all what you're saying. They know it, but they have refused to make space for it. What do you and I do?
What we can do? There are very many things that we can do. What happened in Egypt? Even before independence came for this country, there's some people who thought, these people are wasting their time. You cannot dethrone a white man. There's nothing you'll do. But eventually, alitoka. Hata hawa wenye wako pia watatoka. By saying Hawa, I do not mean the political leadership that is in place, but I mean the entire system.
The system, yes.
Yes, yeah. That has been in place. Hata wao itafika tu siku moja pia wataondoka.
But what can we do actively to fasten that?
Number one, if you are sick, you will never heal until you realize that you are sick. We have a problem, but not everybody knows that we have a problem. When we go for an election, we make a mistake at the ballot. And then after making that mistake, I've always said that we always leave our brain at home. Go make a mistake, then go back home, collect the brains, then start lamenting for a quinquennial cycle, that is 5 years to Nalalameka. Without knowing that this ballot was actually a gun that we were given to slay corruption, slay higher food prices, slay overtaxation and fuel, etc., etc. So if you are given a gun to kill an enemy, and then you don't kill that enemy, alafu unaanza kulia kwamba adui yuko hapo, unafanya makosa. But then siku itafika that you will realize kwamba hii bunduki nitaitumia vyema. So since elections in Africa to some extent have been generally a platform of legitimizing, I can say, leadership that was arrived at clandestinely elsewhere, and they may not be representative of the will of the people, revolutions come in. And again, there are days when people will be voting, their will is overturned at the ballot, and then they think of alternatives, etc., etc. I can assure you that as long as people are sensitized, the status quo will not remain. Things will change.
So that's what you're doing with your platform.
Yes, of course.
Because
if you realize that you're sick, you look for a solution. But as long as you think you're okay, you will die. Ule mtoto mwenye ako kwa mgongo ya mama na ali amenyamaza tu anakufia kwa mgongo ya mama. Lakini akilia inamaanisha anajua kwamba kuna matatizo. So the biggest challenge is with sensitizing the masses.
And that's what this platform is about. It's amplifying you to another audience beyond the audience that you already have, because you're very conscious that the more we come together, the more this is the analogy I give. The Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, the Jesus Christ, the Thomas Sankaras, Patrick Lumumbas were taken out because their ideology, there were individuals speaking in the wilderness. At the minute Jesus Christ's message was able to travel even after he died because he had disciples. That's the reason why I keep asking you that question. They were able to carry that message forward. But Sankara and others, most of them died with their message and with their ideology. And so my belief is that if we have 1,000 Sankaras, we find 1,000 Sankaras, you find the monk, you find Mutemi, you find others, then it is, you cannot, if you take out one and you remain with 999, tomorrow you'll have 10,000.
Yes.
So that's
it will be like a seed which has been planted.
Thank you.
Very many will sprout up.
Will sprout.
And it is also important to note that in the current political environment, you can change this country through activism. You can change this country through mobilizing the masses to notice the mistakes in governance, etc. But you cannot change this country through elective politics because you will not win. You will not win because you don't have tons of money. The electorate wanataka handouts. So platforms like this one are more realistic when it comes to yielding results than even seeking elective positions. That one I can assure you. I can give an example of a gubernatorial aspirant who used a chopper to campaign daily for 2 months. And he was hiring a chopper at 100,000 shillings for 1 hour, which means 1 million shillings per day. For 2 months, he used 6 million. His salary, according to SRC, is around 1 million shillings. So he will have made 6 million shillings in the 5 years cumulatively, which means he campaigned with his entire salary. That's not possible. It means that there is something which is going to do there to make more money. That one also cuts off any other person who may have alternative ideas to run governance because he cannot afford that kind of campaign money to go and seek these elective seats. The only way anybody who is serious about leadership in Kenya, ile path anaweza kufuata tu ni path ya activism. Hiyo nyingine hiyo haiwezekani. You will not win. You declare that you are protesting, you will be declared a very serious joker because you don't have money. And nobody else they are going to go and distribute money. This is definitely stolen money. Yes.
Of course, nobody campaigns with their own money.
Yes.
Unless you're stupid, of course, and then you become broke in this country. So, are you planning to vie again?
No, I'm not contesting again. I contested the first time. The results were not different when I contested the second time because I had not built the kind of watches that is associated with the people who are contesting such political seats. Yes.
But I saw people fundraising for you and giving you cars.
That one was good. They did a great job for me, but the amount was just something small. Kunipa logistics tu kwenda kutembea kuweka magari mafuta hapa na pale. But at the end of the day, watu wanaambiwa pangeni laini 500. And that one is happening in almost every campaign meeting. When a politician leaves for campaign, akienda fundraising anaenda pesa. Akienda matanga anaenda pesa. Campaigning is literally distributing money. For you to campaign for a parliamentary seat, you need something not less than 10 million. That's why I always say that those who want to seek MCS seat must steal some few millions. Those who want to seek MP seat must steal tens of millions. Then senator and the governor must steal something like a billion or something like that one. And he who wants to be president must steal everything. And he who steals nothing, becoming an elected leader is a dream they will not achieve even in dreams.
Even if they try to dream it, it will not happen.
Yes.
Are you planning to get out of Facebook? And because you might not have succeeded in that constituency, but you do have a national audience. And you remember Prophet Wall, when he started, he used to preach to trees in Nakuru County, in the park in Nakuru. He used to speak to himself.
But even before you proceed, that guy is a scientist. He's supposed to be saving lives and not preaching in crusade, not doing miracles.
But when he got out and preached at trees, eventually he got the crowds who are washing the roads for him. So are you planning to get out of Facebook and
I can assure you that right now, I've not built enough muscle that can gain traction outside Facebook. But even within Facebook, there's some little things that I do which have impact. For example, there is a school called Simat, whose mini grade plunged from 9.3 to 3 point something. And then I wrote about it in the same media. And if you noticed, actually Kenya National Examination Council responded to it. So even in Facebook, we're not just reaching the masses and educating them. We're also reaching the authorities, and at times they respond in a way that is constructive to that particular discourse. But again, at some point, when we will build enough traction, we will definitely move this thing outside Facebook. And when we will become, when we will have say in the leadership of this country, some of the things that we will think of doing, I'm only telling you because I've passed somewhere, people are playing golf, and it's not right for two people to play 10 acres of land when guys are starving in slums. We
Actually,
convert that one into amazing
the
plantation.
minimum acreage of an 18-hole golf course is 50 to 75 acres.
75 or 50 times 30 bags of maize ni ngapi? Na unajua mtu anakula gunia 3 ya mahindi kwa mwaka. We can feed the entire Nairobi at only 2 golf courses. Yes, and we'll encourage people to play games that are friendly to resources that are available. Kama ajua.
So what is this thing that you want to do? Once you
with this statement, I only mean that there have to be a radical shift in the way we reason if we are to tackle the challenges that we have as a country in this country.
When you get into an airplane and you get you go over Nairobi, you notice how small the city is and how much land there is all around. Or when you're landing in Kisumu or Kakamega, in fact, they look like very tiny, blots in the surface.
Netherlands is up to 80% urban, but Kenya is largely rural. But the challenge that we have is that not every rural part in Kenya is arable. Kenya has a significant chunk of it which is semi-arid. If you pass by places like Kiambu, it is very fertile, but it's being eaten by urbanization. So we also have a poor land policy. We should not build a town where land is fertile. We are supposed to have located this Nairobi elsewhere, where land is possibly not as productive as where Nairobi stands right now. Yes. There are very many things that we must just overhaul how we are doing things.
Since Kibaki's time, we've allocated, I think, almost 100 billion every year to irrigation, but we never see those dams.
It will not work because possibly, I guess the motive behind the project was kickbacks. When the motive is kickback, even the infrastructural development that we have in this country right now, it is not that somebody is so hungry to see Kenya with very big expressways and very big interchanges. No. We know, although it is unofficial, but we know that kuna 10% kickback. A project worth 500 million this is what is inspiring this project. That is why tutakuwa na lami kila pale mpaka atakuwa kwa nyumba kutakuwa na lami ya kuingia hapo ndani. Even when there are some other things that are glaringly untouched zimewachwa tu zikiwa hivyo. For example, between my home and Eldoret town, there is a huge chunk of land. It is 17,000 acres. It is occupied by the military. The military in itself, its development sits on less than 2,000 acres. Alafu ingine imekaa tu idle. People cannot graze. Wakienda kugraze wanapigwa. Shamba yenyewe haijalimwa. Then tunaenda Galana Kulalu to irrigate sand dunes to produce maize when we have very many idle land which is arable na tumewacha. Our priorities are hanging upside down. Yes. But when we will get them right, everything will work for us. The military establishment intakana weko kwa jangwa huko na hapa tulime.
Do you even need a military?
We need it, but not there. Even right here in Nairobi, there are several military establishments. Nairobi was designed by the colonial government. The colonial government placed these military establishments within the city because they thought that Africans like me and you were cannibals who could eat them. And those days, they did not have a challenge ya shamba. They wakaziweka hapa. Lakini right now, because we are charting our future as a nation, we are supposed to remove this establishment tuzipeleke kwingine. Lakini tusifanye hivyo, ndio to grab shamba yenye imebaki hapa.
That's exactly what will happen. You know who is in charge here. Na appetite yake ya mashamba. Anaweza chukua your statement atumie hiyo kusema hata Wakenya wamesema hii.
Wakati mwingine I remember when Tonje was appointed as the chief of staff those days, everybody knew that it was purely on ethnic grounds. But what did Tonje do?
The revolutionaries.
Yes, the military. Even right now, although it has been said that our president has a big appetite for land, but we can also give him a benefit of doubt kwamba anaweza transform hii nchi na fanya mabadiliko kama haya yenye tunasema, although you tunapea to benefit of doubt, but we are 100% sure that within the existing political matrix, nothing important will change. Because even the president right now, he was in politics 30 years ago as a Kanu man hapo tu. It means he believed in everything that was happening. If you wanted to change anything, you would have changed it long time ago.
Naona akijaribu kuturudisha 90s. Ni kama akona hang up ya some unfinished business from the 90s. Hata kuleta wahubiri kama Benyahin. Wale walikuwa
hapo, you see, one of the easiest way of winning a political seat. In fact, even politicians do a lot of fundraising even in churches. After stealing your loot, your 5% yenye tunasema, unaenda mashinani, makanisani, unapeana simiti na ile pesa ambayo imeibwa. That's why we're saying Christianity has got a very negative impact on our in our governance, society, and in our economy. So even the president rode on that platform na akafaulu. And even right now, wakati tutarudi kwa re-election, the same thing will emerge again. He will tell us that these other contestants are devil worshippers. You must disassociate. Na mimi ninachanga kwa kanisa, and people will vote for him. But if Mwalimu Mutemi talks about these things, people will start giving them the scrutiny it deserves. Is it true that this religion is authentic? It may not be. Is it true that it stands for justice? It does not stand for justice. Religion was an important ingredient in colonialism, in Holocaust, in apartheid, in genocide in Rwanda, in corruption in Kenya. Then if it played a role in all these things, it's not a very good thing. We're supposed to relook this thing. Then a candidate who comes holding the Bible, are we assured that our taxes haitaibwa? Mtu ataona hapa si sawa sana. That is why it is important that we have these conversations. Kuna watu wanafikiri hata ukisema ati Yesu ni hakuna Yesu anafikiri utakufa. Nothing like that, you won't die. Chinese wamekataa Yesu, they're healthier than us. Wengine wanasema Mungu ndiye anapeana uhai. The country with the largest or the longest average life expectancy at 95 is Japan. Japan hawajui Yesu, walikataa Yesu zamani. Nani anawapea maisha? So it's just a matter of opening up this conversation. Because Africans embraced it, because it came with some level of advancement. Unlike their religion, this one had written texts, etc., etc. And they thought it was right. But now it is time to rethink that religion. If we are supposed, you see, if you want to know where you're going, you must look at where you're coming from. And that is it. Religion is also a culprit. Somebody will just come, a very dubious person, anafanya mambo maovu 2-3, anapata pesa nyingi, anasema Mungu alinibariki. As a Christian, you're not supposed to question God. So wewe unajua wewe ni mwizi, lakini wewe unakubali Mungu alimbariki na unapigia kura. But you know this guy is a thief. Alikuwa hana kitu yote, akaenda siji Mombasa, akarudi wapi na mamilioni, bilioni anagawa pesa. Anasema Mungu gani anapeana pesa, na Mungu mwenyewe anapewa sadaka. That is it.
There's a saying that the white man came holding the Bible. Akatuambia fungeni macho. By the time tulifungua macho tukakuta shamba zimeenda zote.
Na sisi tumebaki na Biblia.
Alafu Jomo Kenyatta akakuja akatuambia yeye ndiye anatuliberate, akachukua mashamba zetu zote.
Jomo Kenyatta is actually the founder of land grabbing. He's also the person who invented corruption. He's also the person who invented nepotism, etc., etc. And even this saying at some point had been attributed to Jomo Kenyatta, but he's not the owner. But as a matter of fact, Mzungu has created his heaven here on earth. Lakini sisi yetu tunaambia iko wapi? Mbinguni. If you go, for example, this place is supposed to be Karen, if I'm not wrong. And it's supposed to be an affluent neighborhood. In Eldoret, there is an estate called Elgon View, which is actually for the rich. There are very few, if any, churches there. But if you go to Kawangware or if you go to Langas in Eldoret, there are churches everywhere.
You have a church, a house, a church.
If you want to know how poor people are, just count the number of churches. There is a very serious correlation between poverty and religion. Yule mtu ana mali ametengeneza boma yake hapa. Maskini ambio yetu ni wapi? Mbinguni. That is it. That's why the myth on religion has to be debunked. Yes.
So part of the liberation of the hoof eaters is getting rid of religion.
Yes. Once you are outside that one, you will think very, very differently and very, very constructively.
Is there hope
now,
for
somebody
us?
thinks that for you to do well as a country, it is God who gives wealth. And if you bring a pastor into this country, akuja fanya a crusade Uhuru Park, the country will change. No. We have the God of development with us. The God of development is simply don't steal taxes. The God of development, don't employ people who are incompetent. The God of development is simply do things that are right. Don't be guided by some other factors kama ati unafanya maendeleo kwenyu etc, etc. If you say these things, everything will work right. That is the God that we need. We don't need a God that is written in the Bible. We've never seen him. And then we do everything wrong and we expect that this God will change everything. Utaomba Mungu atupe maisha marefu. There is no vaccine for children in hospitals. People will die, definitely. There is no medication in hospital. People will die, definitely. Then we'll go and bring that acrobat to come and pray for people saying that this one will now bring longer lives. There's nothing like that one. You have to be pragmatic in your approach, and everything will work right.
Now, if the colonialists came holding the Bible, and then you have a president holding the Bible, is there hope for us?
I did not get you.
The colonialists came holding the Bible and took our land. Now you have a president holding the Bible and telling us to pray. Is there hope for us?
Let us go back to the point of colonialism. Colonialism happened. It was a grave injustice to Africa and to us as a country, but we are beyond that one. We are not supposed to look back sana because we have had how many years? 60 years of independence. During this time, at least we ought to have changed something. But if the colonialism were here, they brutalized us, they stole from us, they enslaved us, and then they went back. And right now, there is a place called Canary Island in Morocco. Africans are still swimming for, 100 kilometers to go and follow that Mukoloni there. It means there is a problem. We only changed a set of white Mukoloni to kaweka huyu wa sasa. So we also have to change our perspective about this colonial establishment. It was not just about a Caucasian or a European. It was the mannerism and the enslavement that were brought by those particular individuals, which is still happening right now, only that it is being perpetrated by our fellow native Africans. That is it.
I think tutaachia hapo. Hii conversation itaendelea. Thank you so much, Monk, for your wisdom. Thank you for making time coming all the way from Soy. And keep doing what you're doing. Keep speaking truth to us, speaking truth to power, and working towards realizing a better society in this country. That is what the essence of Utu na Uzalendo is. Asante sana.
Thank you too. Thank you for your initiative. And thank you for hosting me as well.